Hi everyone, this is Chris from Touchpoint. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the migration from the legacy Task and Contacts to the new Task and Notes feature. Specifically, I'm going to cover what admins need to do before and after the migration. I'll also touch on some new features that you might want to be aware of so that you can turn those on after everything goes live. So let's jump in. Here are the three things that you'll want to do before the new Task and Notes goes live, and I'll show you each of these in depth. The first is setting up keywords. The second is setting up any new roles for hiding Task and Notes. And the third is to make sure you familiarize yourself with the new features so that when this goes live, you'll know whether or not you want to turn these on. And those three new features include involvement notes, keyword questions, and reminders. So first is keywords. Keywords can be managed by going to the administration menu to lookup codes, and then under lookup codes you'll see the option for keywords here, which will take you to this page where you can manage keywords. Clicking on the green button here will allow you to add a new keyword, and you can set a code and a keyword. And I'll talk about these things later in the video around questions and whether it's active and merging and deleting. But this is the first thing you'll want to do. You'll want to set up keywords for your different tasks and notes that correlate to different things that your church staff might be, or lay leaders might be using these tasks and notes for. The next thing you'll want to do is to make sure that if you want to limit any of these tasks or notes to specific roles, that those roles are set up also in the lookups codes, and that those roles that you want to use are listed here under the setting limit to roles for task and notes. Here you'll see that I have PC, which is shorthand for pastoral care, as well as staff notes as two examples. And when I go here to an example task, you'll see in the drop-down menu that those two roles are the only two roles that show up. You can set for your church which roles you want to be able to limit specific task or key or notes to, and you can do that in the settings. So let's jump into some new features and talk about those things. On involvements, you now have the option to turn on notes for involvements. An example that we've seen from a few churches and how they use this is maybe for their small group ministry to take notes about the different small groups that exist from their staff and leader coaches that oversee those groups that help them be great places for ministry within your church. It works very similar to the other notes feature where you can add a note, but instead of it being attached to a person, instead is it attached to a specific involvement. To turn this on, you go over to settings, and there's a setting called use involvement notes, and you'll set that to true. There's two other settings that are optional. One is to limit which involvement types that notes tab shows up on. So if you want that to only show on your community groups, you would type in this field the specific involvement type that you want to use. And if you want that tab to only be visible by people with a certain role, say staff or certain lay leaders, you can limit that whole tab to a specific role by typing it in this setting as well. The next feature I want to show is keyword extra questions. So on the keyword page, I mentioned this section here under questions. When you add keywords, they will show by default as having 0 questions. And if you would like to go and add questions, you can click on this button and it will give you the option to add questions. You'll see that there are several different question types you can select, including header text, instruction text, single line question, multi-line questions, drop-downs, yes/no questions, questions that have checkboxes for answers, as well as a date selector. So on this example here for pastoral care, I have each of the different questions selected. You'll notice that you can easily drag and drop these into a different order, and you can edit or delete them if you don't like them. So let me show you how that works on a specific task or note. So here I'm creating a note about William Versace, and here's the note. And you'll see that when I go in here and I type pastoral care and I select the pastoral care keyword, that the Save button changes to a Save and Continue. And when I click on that, then the additional questions will pop up here for me to answer. An example of how you might want to use this might be for a hospital visitation team, might want to take notes about that hospital visit, specifically things like when the person might be released from the hospital, or questions about how they're doing. There's lots of different uses for this, and look forward to hearing about the creative uses that you find for your church. The next thing I want to mention is that we now have the ability to set reminders on different tasks, and you can read more about that in the documentation, which should be released in the next couple days. So let's talk a little bit about the migration. Touchpoint will be handling the migration from the old legacy task and contacts to the new legacy, or to the new task and notes. We will migrate all the legacy over into the new system, and all the data is mapped out properly to correlate to the new tables so that it shows up properly in the new features. We will disable the old features. There will also be the old widget. If you use that, will be disabled, and we have a new widget that we will turn on. We will be announcing dates and timelines for this in the blog, so stay tuned for that. But it should be released in the next coming several weeks. After the migration, there is one main thing you need to do, and that is reviewing and cleaning up any keywords. As part of the migration, what we plan to do is map all of the old ministry types, reasons, and ministries over as keywords. You have several different options for what you can do here. You can disable those keywords by simply clicking on this box to disable them. You can also merge and delete them if you have keywords that are similar. You can rename them by clicking on this box and changing the name. If you, for example, like the word recreation, but you don't need the ministry label there, you can remove that and save that. And lastly, you have the option to delete keywords. Notice that if you do delete a keyword that has task or notes associated with it, if it doesn't have any, it will allow it to be deleted. If it does have some associated with it, it will ask you to reassign those keywords and merge them into a new keyword. A few notes or things that you might want to be aware of is that we're going to have a new import and export tool, which you can read about in the documentation. The mobile app is being updated to include all of this new functionality, including the ability to add task and notes on the fly to a person using the people search. If you have any custom dashboard widgets, you'll need to update those, since all of the task and notes features that I'm talking about are using new tables that are different from the legacy task and contacts. Additionally, if you use any custom scripts to automatically assign tasks, then you'll want to update those as well, and you can find information in the documentation about how to do that using Python. And if your church is using the new people task, we have a new people task that will automatically be turned on using the new system, including the reminders and all of the. It will work very similar to how the old system works for new people task. That is everything. Hopefully this answers all your questions, but if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to support. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for the release of the new task and notes features. Thank you.